The NBA has been put on notice by the Houston Rockets, as with the moves they have made this offseason, the Rockets have perfectly balanced the mix of established veteran stars and young up-and-coming players. We tell you today why the rest of the NBA is playing catch-up to Houston. Welcome into Rockets Digest. I'm Jace Andrews, and I appreciate you tuning into the show. As always, if you're new, make sure you hit that subscribe button. It's 100% free, and we're covering the Houston Rockets every single day of the year, and we don't want you to miss the latest on your H-Town team. This offseason has been a dream for all of Rockets fans in H-Town, because you talk about the trade for Kevin Durant, and that was great, a perfect first move. But after that, signing Dorian Finney-Smith, signing Clint Capella, signing Josh Okogie, getting the extension done for Ime Udoka, getting an extension done for Jabari Smith Jr., getting Fred VanVleet on a more team-friendly deal, everything was in the right manner for Rafael Stone. And now we look at this as a very successful offseason, but I think we aren't giving enough credit to the way that Houston has managed this entire rebuild, and in some ways had this plan for the past 3 years. This was not a perfect year for this season. This was a perfect offseason for the past 3 seasons, because in past NBA championships and dynasties, they've had these established stars, and they brought in some young up-and-coming players who worked out and ended up bringing the championship. Whereas the Rockets, well, they already have their young and up-and-coming stars. Thompson, Jabari Smith, Tari Eason, Alperen Şengün. And then they brought in the vets behind them. Obviously, Fred VanVleet has been here for a little bit now, but talk about KD, Dorian Finney-Smith, Clint Capella, Josh Okogie. These are a type of move that can help the Rockets be successful in this upcoming year. But because of the way they have established their young stars and brought in the veterans, it is more set to be a dynasty and is a better strategy than what we say the Warriors did, getting Curry, Clay, and everybody, and then having Jordan Poole and Wiseman and all them come in and try and get that championship in 2022. The Rockets have a chance to be a better and longer dynasty than any team we've seen in the past 10 years. But it has to be done at the right notion. So far, they've done a pretty good job at that. That's where we get this article that says how the Rockets are perfectly blending two timelines of the young up-and-coming stars and now bringing in the veterans to secure a championship while the up-and-coming stars still establish themselves into a star formation. So, what exactly do we start with this article? Killian Wright of Rockets SI says, quote, General Manager Rafael Stone was quick to fix that problem, talking about Jalen Green and figuring out this entire team as a whole. He traded Green in exchange for a 15-time All-Star Kevin Durant, who now becomes the Rockets' top option. Nobody's questioning Durant's talent as a premier scorer in the league, but being 36 years old is a sharp contrast from much of the Rockets' core. He has a good point. Now, Kevin Durant is a very good and established star. And for all the comments that we saw before we traded for Kevin Durant, and even a little bit after, it was, I don't want KD, he's too old. Now, I know that's not everybody, but in the negative comments, that's what was being said, that KD is too old and that y'all didn't want to trade for him. And I understand to an extent that he is 37 years old, and that is an old age for the NBA. But when he is putting up stats like we are still seeing here on your screen, it is worth it to go out and get him, especially when, this is my take, Jalen Green, Dillon Brooks was a cheap deal to go out there and get KD, even when you throw in those 5 second-round picks. So that's obviously a good thing. But again, what exactly is the plan? Why did they bring in the veteran star after establishing the young people? Well, we continue on in the article here from Killian Wright, who says, quote, many wonder how he'll fit as a traditional team building is have the core on the same timeline. A recent example of a contender trying to blend young talent with championship caliber veterans is the Golden State Warriors, who reloaded on assets following Durant's departure and claimed the 2022 NBA championship after doing so. But like I said, there's a little bit of a different timeline with them. We continue on here with Killian Wright, who says, in the case of the Warriors, they already had an established championship core of veterans in Steph Curry, Klay Thompson, and Draymond Green. They were able to reload on young talent in the draft for a few rebuilding seasons, like Jordan Poole, James Wiseman, Moses Moody, and Jonathan Kuminga. Now, at the end of the day, in the 2022 NBA championship, Jordan Poole was the main contributor of those four. Kuminga, yes, was there. Moody was there, but pretty much it was Jordan Poole doing the heavy lifting for those young guys in the championship era for them. That's exactly why, though, that this plan the Rockets have established is way better than what the Warriors had, because they were betting and hoping for these young players to come up and be good and become a Steph Curry, become that. Well, now the Rockets have gotten an Alperen Şengün and gotten an Amen Thompson and a Jabari Smith and a Tari Eason, who they believe will be the future of this team, and brought in the veterans so they can start winning early and have the winning values established into this team right away. And that's where we go into Killian Wright's article again. He says, quote, "Where Houston differs in this strategy is that their young core has already established roles. Putting the pressure is on the veterans to join the team and contribute. The Rockets gave multiple seasons of development for Şengün, Thompson, Tari Eason, and Jabari Smith Jr., allowing the quartet to find their footing and develop chemistry within the organization," end quote. This is exactly why, if you are going to, in 10 years, have a blueprint of how to create a dynasty, it's going to be the Houston Rockets. You draft well, you establish your stars, you have them being young, and then you bring in the vets to get that winning culture in here, and then you can keep winning with your young guys even when that vet retires. It's more like we're seeing from the Oklahoma City Thunder. They got their young stars in a trade for Shai Gilgeous-Alexander, drafting Chet Holmgren, drafting the Jalen Williams of the world. And then they brought in Isaiah Hartenstein. They brought in Alex Caruso. They brought in guys that would develop this team more and got a winning culture. The Rockets are on that same path, but they have maybe an even better establishment of the young core because they have more of them. Because if you look at the Houston, or rather Oklahoma City Thunder, it's Shai, Jalen, and Chet, which again, great three. But the Rockets with Amen, Şengün, Tari, and Jabari, that four is a similar path to what we're seeing from Oklahoma City. And that's exactly why this team has a lot to do. And Amen Thompson is the beginning, the middle, and the end of this, because the Rockets have a lot of expectations for him. He's 22 years old, averaged 14.1 points, has been labeled a potential breakout star in this upcoming year, and has all the intangibles you want. He's a great defender. He just needs to get a little bit better at the shooting, ball handling, positionment, especially if they're going to play him at the shooting guard role. Now, does he have the capabilities to do so? Absolutely. He absolutely does. We just have to see it on a more enhanced level in this upcoming season. Now, we also have to look to some other guys to kind of give him help, because KD is great. He's going to come in, he's going to be good, but as I've talked about in previous videos, the young stars, they're up and coming. They need to continue being up and coming this next year. They can't be a repeat of what we saw last season. 52 wins is great. I'm not saying that's a bad thing, but I want to see development from these young players so that in the playoffs, we don't have to worry about another early exit. If we're playing the Warriors, of course, that'd be horrible. But Alperen Şengün, need to see a little bit more from him. And I'm not talking that much for his sake. 23 years old, almost 20 points per game and 10 rebounds per game. It's great. But because of the additions the Houston Rockets have made this offseason, passing needs to be a little bit more prevalent in his game. Being able to handle the ball when he's down low and kick out to an open Dorian Finney-Smith, an open KD, who both like to shoot off the pass, it's going to create for a better team. Now, his assists per game were great last season. I'm not saying that for a center you want more than 4.9 assists, but using the pass because, I'm going to say hockey assists here. He's going to pass to an open guy in the corner. Everybody's going to flood that way, and you're going to have another pass open on the left where it's easily going to be a shot for a Fred VanVleet or a Dorian Finney-Smith. It's going to be a learning curve, but I see Alperen Şengün becoming more of a presence strictly on the fact that when you pass it to him down low, you can't send everybody down there because he's going to immediately pass it out if you do. And that's the way that he can make this team better in his light. And I think one guy that is almost lost in all this is Tari Eason. Now, Tari, we haven't talked about that much because he's 24 years old, so a little bit older than the younger guys, but still 12 points per game this last season, 6.4, and he is once again going to have a more established role than last season, but he's also going to be able to learn from Kevin Durant just as Jabari Smith Jr. will. These two guys are probably going to be literally some of the most young stars we're going to be able to see. We're going to be able to get the gauge on them, to have them learn from Kevin Durant, to have them grow from having a young, to being young and knowing a guy who is what they want to be in the future, sitting and standing right in front of them. That is like perfect for them. So it's exciting to see both of them. And then we finally have the last report here from Killian Wright, in which he says, quote, each have proven ready to play serious playoff minutes, talking about the four that I just mentioned, and still have room to grow. It's much easier for an established veteran to join a contending squad and find his role than it is for a young player still trying to prove his worth in the league, setting up the new Rockets squad perfectly, end quote. And that's where I invite you into the conversation. Do you think the Rockets are going to be a dynasty? Is this a perfect setup for the Houston Rockets? Have they been able to formulate this squad with the young likes of Thompson, Şengün, Jabari, and Tari, and bring in KD, Dorian, Finney, Smith, Clint Capella, and these veterans who can now jump in, find that role immediately, and make this team a contending squad this year, and teach the young guys to become them in the future, so that in 3 years, 4 years, when Dorian Finney-Smith is gone and KD retired, and whatever happens to the rest of the guys, we're still going to have Jabari, Tari, Alperen, and Amin out there and learn from these big stars and better, and maybe even stars themselves. That's why I believe the Rockets are perfectly setting up their entirety of their future. And this was not just a this season plan. This was a perfectly execution rebuild from Jabari Smith Jr., from Rafael Stone and the Houston Rockets franchise. It was. Let me know your thoughts in the comments section. We appreciate you watching, and I'm excited for the league. I'm excited for the league to understand what the Rockets are doing, and I'm excited for this upcoming season. We'll see you next time here on Rockets Digest, everybody. Peace out.